Welcome once again to On the Spectrum podcast. Today we are diving into Lexi's journey, one of our students at Loddon School, with her mom, Lisa, and one of our PROACT-SCIPr instructors, Sharon. So can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. So I'm Sharon Broughton. I have been a member of the Loddon team for about 22 years now. So I started Loddon as a learning and care support assistant, and then I was a care manager for about 10 years. I've been a PROACT-SCIPr instructor for probably about 16 years and a principal PROACT-SCIPr instructor for the last 10. Okay. So, yeah, what else do you want to know about me?
Very impressive.
Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lexi's mum.
So our first question is for you. Can you tell us about Lexi's journey through, do a summary, because I know there's a lot, and then we talked about that in a video we did previously, but for the new listeners to understand where we are coming from.
And for the people that doesn't know this, Lexi is one of the students of the Loddon School, and you have been with us for about 3 years, I would say
nearly
now.
3 years, yeah. So from a young age, I realised that there was something different about Lexi. She got to about the age of 2.5 and she hadn't said anything. And that's kind of when we started the whole sort of journey and realising that she was neurodivergent and that we really didn't know what that meant for her at the time. When Lexi was younger, she was a very placid child. She never really became upset about anything. She would very much go with the flow. She was a very easy child. And it wasn't until Lexi got to about age 7 where she started displaying self-injurious behaviour. And it sort of seemed to come out of nowhere, actually, because she was just this placid child. And then out of nowhere, she just started showing these behaviours, and at home she was doing it at home mostly at first, and when I tried to explain to the school, they weren't seeing it there at first, so they sort of looked at me like I was crazy. And then she started displaying them at school, and then it was just a really difficult downward spiralling journey for Lexi from that point where she started harming herself. It then increasingly became worse and worse, to a point where she would have hospital admissions where she had hurt herself so badly. The school, professionals, anybody that was involved with Lexi at the time didn't know what to do. They sort of looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help. And that was across all fields, everywhere. So it was a really, really challenging time for Lexi, and for us as a family, of how to support Lexi and how to get her back a quality of life. I mean, she wouldn't even leave her bedroom. She wouldn't leave her bedroom. She wouldn't eat. She wouldn't drink. She was just like a shell of herself before she came to Loddon. Yeah.
How it comes, that decision? How do you guys find Loddon School, and how is the process of making the decision to...
To be honest, I knew about residential provisions for children, but I never thought that was going to be in Lexi's perimeter. From how placid she was as a child and how sort of well she adapted to being in everyday life, I never thought that would be something that we were going to have to consider for Lexi. But it wasn't until she was at school, and then she was one of the children that became one of the students that had a ground hold on her plan. I had to go in and sign documents, and she wasn't progressing, and she wasn't happy. And I didn't know the different options. And when residential provision was first mentioned to me, I said, absolutely no way. There's no way she's not living with me. I can't do that. She needs to stay with me. She needs to stay at home with me. But it wasn't until things got so bad and I had exhausted every single other option, I had to try. I had to try for her. I had to try and give her a chance. And that is when the local authority and everyone sort of started exploring residential provisions. And it wasn't until I came and visited the Loddon School a couple of years before Lexi started, and I remember walking away from that visit thinking that I could see her in there, that I could see her being supported in that environment. So that's sort of how we got on to looking at residential provisions. But it was something that scared the life out of me the whole way through it, and I didn't even know if it was actually going to help Lexi. I didn't know if it was the right thing for her, but I had exhausted everything else that I could possibly do for her at the time at home. So
taking from what you said, that it was the only child that had a floor hold. And then from a PROACT-SCIPr perspective, because we don't use that kind of approach, how do you think that would have impacted her in that way? Because I know that in the previous video we commented about this a little bit, and we said that was quite detrimental for Lexi. So from our PROACT-SCIPr perspective, how do you think that was affecting her? How does affect, and why we don't use that kind of approach?
I think there's a couple of elements. You know, you can look at it from the trauma aspect and how upsetting that might be for a child, that, you know, to be held by more than one adult, many adults, in that moment, not really know what's going on. So it can be quite scary and traumatic for someone, as well as staff, I think, actually, because it can be quite impacting for staff that maybe need to do that. I think, but also, look, there are children that maybe quite like that deep pressure, so there's an element of that as well. So it's about looking at why that behaviour is happening and trying to work out the real why behind it, the function of it, to then try and work out what would be best, what's the best way to then support them. But look, ultimately, we want to get to a point where children are as independent as possible, where you don't have to put your hands on them in any way. And that's what we strive for within PROACT-SCIPr, is how do we, and it really is about unpicking the behaviour and looking at why it's happening. That's the PBS element within PROACT-SCIPr, to talk about, you know, what strategies can we put in place that replace the need for that behaviour for them to use that behaviour. So it's a really hard position to be in, but ultimately, as staff, as you know, people that are looking after children, we have a duty of care as well, just to keep them safe. So in that moment, that might be the only option in some instances, to keep someone safe. Then what we have to do is try and unpick it and put lots of other things in place. And then, alongside it.
Yeah, and then actually you said something key, is like we understand behaviour as communication. So probably, do you think that she was trying to say something? It's just that people at the time that were around her, and not in the way of blaming anybody, it's just we couldn't understand the language as she was talking. And then unfortunately her only language was that self-injury behaviour, till probably arrived to Loddon, and we said, wait, this self-injury behaviour means I want to say something that is my only way, or resources that I've got to come through. Yeah. Do you think that can be something like that?
I mean, Lexi has struggled with communication since she was a toddler. I've never been able to get her to pick up pecs or communicating in any kind of way. I've always had to treat her or meet her needs like a baby in terms of process of elimination, to try and work out what is wrong. And I feel like she came to a point where she was growing up and she was getting bigger and she had other needs, and then she just couldn't communicate at all to what she wanted, or the only thing that she could do was use items of reference, and that would be for her drink bottle, or, you know, if she wanted her iPad or something like that. But in terms of actual communication, she really couldn't. And yeah, I feel that was one of the main things for Lexi, is that she couldn't get across how she was feeling, or if she wanted something, or if she just wanted the light off, or if she just, you know, felt a bit hot, or, you know, any of those things. She couldn't communicate those, and I could never imagine not being able to communicate them. You know, that would be so distressing for her, you know.
Yeah, and with the communication of behavior, that then when you have the tools, and we give a different wide range of different tools to communicate your needs, I think you stop using the self-injury behavior and you start using those tools. So that is more a question for you, because you support Lexi kind of in a day-to-day, and you have worked close with her. So yeah, so what that looks like, what supporting a child like Lexi looks like every day, in a day-to-day basis.
So I think, probably Sharon, you can chip in here as well. I think for us a lot on how we work is, for us the main thing is to build a relationship with the children. I think if you don't have that bond, if you don't have that relationship, it's difficult to work with the students in general, and that was the key. Then the second element to start working with Lexi was working on the transition that the students do when they come to us. So we work with the other school, with family or other placements that they are, in terms of how you do it, what you do, like when this happened or that happened, or what you do and how you support Lexi when she's doing self-injury behavior, what she likes, what she doesn't like, how she responds when she's upset, how it looks like. So you try to gather all the information possible to have within your suitcase, like your tool suitcase, in terms of, okay, this is everything that I know from Lexi, and then we start working on building that relationship. And another element that we put really quickly is understanding how Lexi communicates. So it's giving answer to any element that she will do or anything that she will do to express herself. And then we understand that behavior is communication. So parting from that premises, you say, okay, so every single time she's upset for something. We not always know why, but we will find the way, as Sharon was saying, let's undo what's happening in here, because it's a big situation. I remember when she came to Loddon, she used to have really long periods of SIB, like self-injury behavior. It was quite intense. So it was managing and building that trust in terms of, don't worry, we know what's happening. If not, we will find out, we will work hard to arrive there.
I think there's an element as well of our response is very different with self-injury. Self-injury is high risk, and it's I think your immediate response is to jump in and we want to try and stop it because we don't want someone to hurt themselves. But there's lots of reasons that people self-injure. Some of it is around sensory need, and if we stop that self-injury from happening, they're still going to need that sensory input. So they're still going to try and seek that out, even if we jump in and stop that self-injury. So I think our approach to self-injury is slightly different. Not to the point where we would allow someone to really, really hurt themselves, but at the same time, there is an element of listening to that behaviour in its, like, as a behaviour. Because if somebody doesn't have a fluid communication method, we have to look at what they're doing and displaying with their behaviour to see what they're trying to tell us through that. And I think, so by not responding to the self-injury, but by responding to you giving us your cup to tell us that you want a drink, we then very quickly make that the more effective strategy. So actually, if I give you the cup instead of hitting myself, that becomes the much more effective strategy and the one that I'm going to use more, because I know that people respond to it quickly. Whereas if we're responding quickly to the self-injury, it becomes a really effective way of trying to communicate that message.
I think that's what happened. She got herself into such a rut that whenever she became distressed about something, she would just immediately self-harm, and there was no fuse, it was just immediately hit myself.
And it worked for everything, I imagine.
Yeah, so she was doing it all the time, all day. And I think that, like you're saying, because of the response that she got when she did used to self-injure, that is why it became so bad, and why she got herself into such a bad place, because it just became her default to do that, whatever was happening at the time. Yeah,
I think we work as well in terms of the day-to-day that we were saying, is the element of flexibility and predictability that we bring at Loddon School. Is Lex is not a morning person, which I understand because neither I am. And so then instead of, sometimes when you need to go to school, you wake up, I mean, we are moms here, like you wake up, it's like you're always rushing. I don't know how we do it, but you always end up like, we are running late, and then you're like, come on then, let's go. And then probably you were in that situation with Lexi, as all of us at 9 in the morning when you need to go to school. But once that you are Loddon, that element of we are rushing because we need to transition from point A to point B, we need to go to a school, we need to do this, we need to do that, that is completely out of the equation because she lives there. And then we understood with Lexi really quickly that she wasn't a morning person. She didn't like to wake up early. She didn't like to have a shower. All the demands that were coming along in the morning, it was like, no way. And then we started like releasing those demands, giving her enough time to process. You need to wake up. We've been working on music. She was having a shower, having a tablet, like a teenager, or me, like I'm listening to the radio, a podcast when I'm having a shower. She was listening to her favorite music. So all of these elements that we started working on it were helping her to understand, like, don't worry, it doesn't need to be that bad anymore. It can be a good experience to actually start the day with another foot. Is it like, we are like, with a, come on then, let's go, we have to go to school. And also when you are throughout the day doing activities, we are quite flexible. Like, don't worry if the child doesn't go, we can bring the activity here, or we will go later. We are having a little moment here, we are not too sure, let's wait 10 minutes and then we can still access that. Yeah. And I think that element of flexibility helped Lexi a lot, because it's on her terms, when she is ready, not when we need to, and we can play with that. And I think that helped out. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it goes a little bit like slowly, the progress in our settings, and some people struggle to see it, but I think when you see the big picture, it's quite amazing to see. So I was going to say, when did you start seeing a change on Lexi since she started at the Loddon School?
It was, I think that when she first started, we didn't bring her home for an overnight for about a year afterwards, because we didn't want to unsettle her. When she first started coming home, she used to come home for the day. But it was probably about 6 months in, and that sparkle came back in her eye, and she started eating properly, and she started raiding my fridge at home like she used to do before, and she used to raid the crisp baskets, and I could say to her, would you like to do this or that? And there was no immediate hit to the head. It was, she would think, and it was just her gaining that fuse back to listen to what I had to say or what I had to offer her, that I thought, oh my goodness, you're listening, like, and you're not jumping straight to it. And it was slowly, she started even walking differently. She walked with a straighter back, and she just seemed more happy in herself. She was smiling again, and it was amazing. It was like she came back to life, and I didn't think that would ever happen. I remember talking to parents that had children in residential care before Lexi went in, saying, well, now they're, riding horses, and they're doing this, and they're going to football matches, and they go on holiday. And I was thinking, that is never, ever going to be Lexi.
Well, Lexi went to a
Lexi
wedding.
now.
Yeah? Lexi went to a wedding, and they
Lexi-
told me was dancing all night.
Lexi now has a better social life than me, which is just, she goes to girl guides, she goes to, and all of the, even taking her to a football match, I would have even got her out of the car. She wouldn't have even got out of the car. And it's just, to where we are now, she is just unrecognisable from when she was living at home. And she's just, Lexi's back. She's, happy, and she's got a quality of life back, which that's all I ever wanted for her. I really wanted her to reach her potential, and that no matter how small that was, or I just wanted her to have a quality of life, and I wanted her to be able to enjoy the things that she can enjoy. And I feel like she has really got to that place now. She's a happy girl and hungry.
Yeah, you say on the video that because you recorded a video for our internal training, and I know that video have been used widely in the school, and everybody have a comment, and I think it touched a chord in everybody's heart when you say, I got my girl back. It was something that, we were all holding the tears back.
It genuinely felt like that, though. It really did. It almost felt like, without being rude, it felt like she died. I genuinely felt like she died before, and I would look at her in the bedroom and I would think, she's going to die. And I don't know what I can do and the residential was the last thing I could try. And she's come back.
And because when we visited, I remember, just to throw Sharon a question to see what is behind that, because when we went to visit Lexi to start that transition, the sleeping pattern was really broken. She wasn't sleeping in the night, then she was sleeping in the day, she wasn't eating, she wasn't engaging in any activity they found really difficult, even whatever that was her favorite thing to do at that time in the school. It was quite difficult to have a positive response. And then what we are seeing now is completely the other side of the bridge, is what I was saying. I took Lexi to that wedding, and she looked like a rock star, how confident, from the confidence perspective, a live child, in her dress. She was completely aware that it was a special night. It was for her. Then we were fortunate that everybody was ready for the first dance for the bride and the groom. And then she rocked up and she was like, they are just waiting for me. It's like, no, darling, they're not waiting for you. Because you could see people that like, this is not what we're expecting. And she was really convinced that they were waiting for her. She was really excited of being there. She really enjoyed the night. But that Lexi is completely in the other side of the bridge of like what Lisa was explaining. So it's like, what is behind to support and then to move forward a child like that?
It's hard, isn't it? I think we can get stuck. We can relate it to ourselves. You know, if we've had a bad night's sleep, if we're not feeling well, if we've not eaten properly, if we don't feel listened to, if we, are not feeling like we're being heard, if we have to do these things that we really don't feel well enough to do, but somebody's saying, come on, you have to do this, get up, get dressed, get showered, get ready. Actually, it would impact anyone. And there are things that are going to exasperate that, like not sleeping, not eating, all of those feed into it, don't they? So you're right. I wanted to go back to what you'd said, Lorena, about actually giving Lexi a slower morning. Sometimes it's about making those changes just to make something a little bit easier for someone, and then that has like a spiral effect. So once we start getting that right, and at Loddon we have 30 different timetables for 30 different children because everyone's so different. It might be that somebody's actually better in the morning, and actually we might put in place lots of activities in the morning because that's when they are ready and up and raring to go. For other children, actually a slower morning, fewer demands, and then we sort of, by lunchtime we're doing more activities because that's a better time for them. It's getting those bits right, and then hopefully we know that actually when you're doing more, you're much more likely to sleep better. So the more you do, the more tired you feel, so the better you sleep. And then in turn, everything sort of eases a little bit. The more you do, the hungrier you get. So the more you eat, so it all has that kind of knock-on spiral effect. But sometimes it just takes a few changes. But it's getting those changes and knowing what those changes are first off is sometimes a really tricky bit.
Yeah, and we work hard. Like at the beginning, it wasn't that clear, that simple. Sometimes it comes across really simple at this ABC, but sometimes it's like lots of people working with her, like what's going on, what's not going on, what's working, what's not working. Have you tried this? Have you considered that? So there's even lots of information and emails moving along
and if you think
around.
and if you think about the self-injury, like you said, like Lexi was using that for everything. So if you think about looking at the reason for that behaviour, you could say that's because she's not feeling well, it's because she doesn't want to do something, it's because she's hungry, it's because she wants to drink. Actually, there are so many different reasons. So where do you start with that? Can be really difficult to know.
Yeah, and in the setting of a parent is you trying to figure out all of those when we have teams and we have we have an education team, we have a care team, we have a behavioral department that analyze those behaviors, and we have you guys that after with all that information put the plan and strategies in place. So it's not the same way that on the shoulders of one person. So I think that also that multidisciplinary ecosystem that is working all for the same aim and the same goal is quite important.
And I think sometimes it gives as well, like as you were talking before, those spirals is how you put the efforts to bring the spiral up. I remember an occasion that we were in McDonald's and Lexi doesn't like waiting. She doesn't like waiting when she's hungry, and she doesn't like waiting when you are in McDonald's hungry, who
doesn't?
Correct.
I'm with her on that,
There you go. So sometimes we see
Absolutely.
this probably because we have maybe a little bit more understanding, but you can see people there like waiting, knowing they're really good mood, and then she kind of look at the person that was working with her, and then she hit herself like warning us in the way of, this is becoming annoying now type of thing. I cannot say it like that, but you could see in the eyes like, you're annoying me now, you are just having me here, the smell, this is not helping. And then, we explain, like, you're waiting, we're counting, we start doing, like, probably people will start scrolling. If he's out, we'll start scrolling on the phone, getting, like, trying not to get more annoyed than we are already. And then we start doing deep pressure massage, we put music in the iPad. So you try to look for those resources that kind of let's make easier that waiting process. But one thing that I would like to say about Lexi is that I think she is the picture of resilience. When you think about how the meaning of resilience, I think Lexi is one of the students that come to my head, because she has grown that ability of, okay, I can trust people. You can push us slightly further. And I think when you see the bigger picture, like you were saying before, little by little, you don't see those movements. But when you step back and you say, like, where we are and where we were, definitely there is such a big step forward, and then she will be able to wait. She actually comes with a cheeky face, like, I don't want to do that. We are not doing that. It grabs you that I see you, bye. But it's that element of, I don't need to hit myself anymore. I just can say no, thank you.
It's also about knowing that in those moments where she does, like, take you by the hand and lead you away, that you're not going to say, actually, we have to do this. It's about allowing her some control over her own life. You know, we all like to feel like we're in control of our lives, don't we? And when we don't, we all go, oh, I'm not sure I like this. So, and Lexi's going to be exactly the same in that aspect. And we have to sometimes, we might have to encourage her to do things that maybe she likes a bit less. You know, you're going to help me put your laundry away. This is, you know, quite important that we do this, but it might not be something that she really, really enjoys. But then afterwards, we'll do something that you really love, because
some days I really don't want to put away my clothes, you know.
Who does?
And you just leave it
And that's
to the next
exactly
day.
it.
And I think that...
but then there's always those times where actually maybe it's getting a bit loud in here, and she tells you or says, I'm ready to go now, that we say, okay, absolutely. Let's go.
It's giving her voice, is it? Like, you are entitled to say no. You're entitled to say, I don't want to do this now, or I'm not feeling like it. And sometimes you work as well in terms of, I understand, but we need to do this, or let's do this and then that. So it's lots of negotiation, or let's put Michael Jackson. And then I remember coming back, we used to go for a walk every Friday to post the letters. And then halfway back, she was sitting down like, no way, it's not happening anymore. I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm not moving. And then we were like, come on in, we were singing. And as soon as he was watching something or seeing something that she could see, that she was sitting there like, no more. And they're like, right, Michael Jackson will do. So you were playing Michael Jackson or like Taylor Swift or whatever thing that is like, you know, everybody likes to do something, like listen to music, or you will look for a element that you like to do those ones that you don't like. It's just like a mixing. But definitely she's loud, she's back, and you can see her, like, you can see fully how Lexi is personality-wise.
I think her personality disappeared for a long time, and you can... I mean, they would say to me, what does she enjoy doing? I was like, she loves going outside. She loves going outside. She loves those sensory toys. She loves water play. She loves all of those things. And for ages, it just disappeared. So when I was trying to sort of explain Lexi's personality, it was quite difficult because she'd lost it for a long time. And I feel like now she's back. Her personality has come back to the surface, and she's enjoying doing the things that she used to enjoy, just being outside and sunbathing. Actually, she loves doing that, and water play. And I think that, yeah, it's really nice to see that her personality's come back, and her cheekiness as well, because she is, and she will try. If you don't know her, she will push and be like, do you know that I can do that? Or do you not know I can do that? Like, if I've got one
but
of my...
she laughs. You say you laugh me
one
like,
of my family members come
you know
around,
me.
yeah, and they're sort of changing her top or whatever. I know that she can do it. And she's just, you know, I'm like, she can do it. She can put her arms through her top, you know. It's like, she's just being cheeky. She can do it. Or pulling her trousers up, you know.
We were talking about how difficult this journey can be for a parent. You know, you don't have a lot of knowledge on the subject, you're making decisions, trusting in, you know, a specialist or what you think is the best for your child. So I was just going to ask from, like, even from diagnosis, how as a parent that journey have been for you.
I mean, when I was 17 when I had Lexi, and Lexi got her autism diagnosis when she was 3 or 2.5, and I remember them giving me, saying, she's autistic, here's your diagnosis, see you later. I was 19 years old and I didn't even know what autism was. I'd never heard of it before. And I just remember thinking, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know where to go. I had nobody to talk to about it. My parents didn't know anything about it. And I didn't even know what school. I didn't know a nursery. I didn't know anything. I was really alone and didn't know who to turn to guide me of what to do, what was best for Lexi at that time. It so happens that I did get her into a special education needs nursery local to me, and they were brilliant in helping me. The manager of the nursery helped me get Lexi's EHCP, helped me get her into her first SEND school. But in terms of professionals at that point, it is really difficult. I mean, even taking her to a GP was difficult because I couldn't get them to understand if she was poorly or, you know, the communication was not there. And feeling alone, and then without medical professionals as well that are understanding or helping, it was really, really difficult for both me and Lexi at that time. Yeah.
And we're talking about like the element of nobody knew what was going on. So it comes to a point that I was saying with Sharon, like, you try to do your best for your daughter, but it's always like an element of, am I doing right? Am I not doing right? I don't know, so I trust you as a professional, and then you are as clueless as I am, and then we are here like guessing, and this, it seems like everybody gets lost and diffused instead of actually giving answers.
And ultimately, parents know their children best, so they're our absolute source of information when it comes to getting to know a child. And I think, you know, we were talking, weren't we, about previous to Loddon, and actually I was saying that don't take on any of what's happened before, because you're being guided by the professionals around you, and you trust them, don't you? You trust in what those professionals are saying, because they're the professionals. So you hope that they know what's best in those moments. But
I think that's what it has taught me, is that I know Lexi best, not professionals. I know both my daughters best, and I feel like it has really taught me to not take everything they say all the time, because they don't know them like I do, and it's easy to be sort of swayed in a direction that maybe you don't feel is right because it's a professional. But then I now know that you need to trust your gut instinct of what is right. Like I said about when I first visited the Loddon, I had a gut instinct that I could see Lexi in there, and that was the right thing to do. But the whole journey of trying to get Lexi a residential provision took me 3 years to do that, and to fight for the funding. I was fighting for something I didn't even want. I was fighting with everything I had in me to get her into a provision that could meet her need when I didn't even want her to go. I didn't even want it to happen, you know.
And I think it's so hard when you've got a family that are at breaking point, you know, and
which we literally were.
And when it's the worst moments of your lives, and there's just you're fighting constantly, and the support is not there, and
constant meetings and and they're not meetings like I have now about Lexi, because I love going to meetings now about Lexi, but it's getting worse. And it was just all doom and gloom, and there's nothing we can do. And I would have them multiple times a week, you know, and it was just I couldn't stay positive. I had to fight. I had to just keep fighting until I got her where she needed to be. And I wasn't going to give up until you have to shout the loudest, because otherwise they don't listen, you know. And I found that. And when somebody tells you no, that's not the answer a lot of the time. You just have to push harder. Because I know they can do it.
It's tricky because you don't know, you don't have that much information, you don't know what is required. Like it's about gut instincts. It shouldn't be like that. It should be like if the professionals say ABC, you should go that way, or when you're like, I'm desperate now, I don't know what to do, but I'm mum, I'm not meant to have all the answers. You are guys the professionals, can you help me out? And they're coming like, it's just getting worse. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. I can see that, but you need to give me something else.
I even had some professionals turn around and say to me, just hand her over to local authority. Wow. Or go and drop her at A&E. Wow. And I was like, absolutely not. Like I had the extreme of medical professionals telling me, we don't know what to do, sorry, we can't help you anymore. And then I had sort of care staff saying to me, go and drop her off at A&E. And I was a mum trying to hold it together. I was trying to get her to where, and I wasn't going to give up until, you know, I needed her to be okay. I needed to give everything that I had to make sure that I got her in that placement. And all of these people saying all of these things to me about her and how she hasn't got the capacity to be educated. She hasn't got the capacity to live, you know, like a full fulfilling life. And I just didn't listen to any of them because
Thanks God for that.
Thanks God for that.
Yeah.
That is how hard it is.
You are very strong, and you should put a lot of medals on you.
For a parent, it's awful, and I really want to don't listen. Yeah. Don't listen to them.
I think is something very important that Sharon say, and an advice for parents is ask why. Every single time something is proposed to you or a strategy, question yourself why. What is the aim of this strategy? Why we're putting this in place?
What for? Yeah. Like what we are gonna get with this.
You were saying that you've learned that since then. Just question everything, because
I mean, now I don't think my other daughter's school like me that much, because I do question absolutely everything now that goes into her plan, into AHCP. I will rewrite it every time, and they don't like it, but I want to make sure that I do it right this time, and that I don't get led down a garden path that's empty. And I don't want, I want to make sure that, because the journey with Lexi and where Lexi has got to taught me so many things that I just want to implement now in my life with Lexi still, and with my other daughter Ruby as well.
I think parents are not trying. There's not always a parent that is trying to be difficult for the sake of being difficult. I think it's about,
you're made to feel that way.
Yeah, like I think we don't want to be difficult. You don't want to be difficult. No. It's about not forgetting that we are both working together for Lexi. And at the end of the day, I want the best for Lexi. You want the best for Lexi. Mm-hmm. And if we have that element in common without forgetting that, everything else will build that. And then when I say something, I'm going to do ABC or put this strategy in place, let's work around it. Is it going to work? What is the good that we are going to get? What is the bad? Is there anything that we need to kind of take into consideration and mitigate, because we might have risk or negative elements on it that we need to count and then be aware of them? Are you happy with that? Do you agree with us doing A, B, whatever that is? It's not about I say B, you say C, and then we start having a fight to see who is right or wrong. It's about what is best for Lexi.
I think that parent relationship is so important, because you've got our children, and handing them over and trusting that their needs are going to be met is a huge thing. And when they can't communicate, when they can't, so I feel like the parent relationship is so important, and that also is a real comfort for me as a parent. If I know that I can phone and say, is she okay today, or I know that vice versa, Loddon can call me and say, Lisa, what should we do here? That makes me feel so at ease, knowing that I have got such a good relationship with Loddon School, and that they will phone me and I can phone them, and that we have both got Lexi's best interests at the forefront, and I think that that's really important for a child
when they're going through a difficult situation, like when things are going really well, it's really nice to sit down on a table, like around the table and say, and normally it's Lexi's reviews, but sometimes things go in the other way around. We are not all happy as Larry. Sometimes we go through difficult times, and then I think at Loddon we are all keen on, let's sit down on the table, let's put everybody possible to have here, let's have representation from the care, education, divas, even training sometimes, like, guys, how can we do this? We talk to Sharon and Helen, like, how can we do this? How can we change these things? This is not working. How can we do? Always putting the child in the best, like in the sentence. in the line of PROACT-SCIPr, but like we fight to find the solution. Like, what is the solution that we need to find in here? Even with parents, how it works for you. Is it working? Is it not working? Have you tried before? So you always have like a whole picture of the child to move forward. And I think that's key.
Sometimes that is trial and error. So sometimes we might not get it right and it might go wrong for a bit, you know, and it might not be as effective because we don't get it straight away. So we have to try a few different strategies before we get the right one. But it's, you know, it might be that something that was tried in the past that maybe didn't work then, but we think, let's try again because it might work now that things are slightly different. So it's being open to that as well for everyone. As you said, we get so many people involved. It's being open to that as well, though. Let's try it. Let's give it a good try. We can't just try it for a week. We've got to give it a good time frame to see if it has an impact and helps. If not, we'll try something else. And I think that's what we're quite good at. There's always another way. If that doesn't work, we'll keep trying.
It's
and
like,
we will keep trying.
There is a way, we just need to find a way.
That's
so
it.
the fact that we haven't found it yet doesn't mean that doesn't exist. It's just, there is a way to go.
And sometimes it just takes a bit longer than than others to find that right way.
I always say, like, even to new staff, I said, they have a click. You need to find the click. And once that you find the click with that child, it's like you can start seeing that connection is there, the relationship starts building up. And they look at me like, what do you mean a click? It's like there will be something that you do that child like, here we are. Yeah. There you go. And some children are more difficult than others. It's the same with the solutions. It will be always a way to arrive to bring that child back to where it was. But sometimes it takes a time, yeah.
Okay, so to close, what would you say to a parent who might be feeling or being in the place that you were once?
I would say that you need to remember that giving up, you're not giving up. Letting go is not giving up, because I had to let her go to give her a quality of life, and I feel like that's really important because I felt so guilty about it, and I felt like I was just giving up and that she wasn't going to be my problem anymore, and you know, and I wasn't giving up. I was giving her a chance, and I feel like that's really important for anybody that is sort of around the stage where they potentially think that their child needs residential support, that it's not giving up. It's really, it's an amazing journey. I still struggle today. I mean, I don't think I ever won't struggle with Lexi not living with me anymore 24/7. I feel like there will always be something that I carry with me, but I feel now looking at her and bring her home and seeing how happy she is now, I'd trade that any day. I would trade it any day, and I'm just so happy for her, and I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud that she's pulled herself from such a bad place to where she is now, and I'm so glad that I did fight for 3 years. I'm so glad that I nearly ended flat up on my back fighting to get her into there, and it was all worth it. And yeah, you'll get there, and don't accept no as an answer, basically.
Well, you have done amazing, and thank you so much for sharing with us for the training video purposes and for the podcast purpose. I think it's really important to other people that is going through the same journey to feel like they are not the only ones and have a little bit of guidance and a light at the end of the tunnel.
I wish I'd have seen a story like Lexi's before Lexi came into Loddon, because it would have made me feel better. So I really hope that it does help somebody and touch somebody.
Yeah, well, we need to say that we have some prospective parents that they came and said, actually, we listened to you guys, we listened to the podcast, and then that gave us an idea of how you work, which it was really nice to see that we are transferring those barriers and going to the community. It's like, I think someone will hear this story.